you. Ready to start? What's going on? Where is Oh? Yeah. He's here, he's in the office. Okay. Okay, so we started Ois Zayin, 184. What is it? 10 lines from the top or 9 lines from the top. From the Seder Avidosa, the line begins with these words, and that's where we're going to start. What is from the Seder Avidosa. Yeah, you have it? So we are going to translate, so to speak, what we have discussed previously in the inyonim of Chesed, and Gvura, and Tiferes. And then the most important part is the Tiferes, where there is actually an experience of observing, nistakolo, of recognizing the godly presence because of the beauty that exists, meaning because of the interrelationship of independent entities. There you see a godly presence. From all this we will understand also in Seder Avedas HaOdom, in the Aveda of a person. In Avodah, the union of Avodah, there are, perhaps we can speak of two aspects in Avodah. One, in the primary, is simply that this is what Hashem wants us to do. Avodah. That includes everything. You do a mitzvah. That's Avodas Hashem. Then we're speaking about what's called avodah pnimis. Not just that the mitzvah or the in general fulfilling Hashem's will is not merely an act, but this is something that permeates the very person himself. He becomes one with it. We must first of all understand and recognize that it is absolutely possible to be one with Hashem. Why? Because in fact the whole world is one with Hashem. The fact that we are not is due to something that interferes with the truth. But the truth is that it is that Elokus is through and through everything. Recognizing this principal truth, this opinion from Hashem Echad, this allows one to approach Avodah. In other words, that we have to recognize this is not an illusion. You know what illusion means? Some kind of an imaginary thing. I'd like to be this kind of a person. I'd like to be this kind of a person. This is all folly. This is reality. This is an avodah is a means to reach up and allow the truth of the neshama of the person to shine through. So even though this sounds so simple, yeah, the neshama is there, but you have to go through a lot of obstacles, a lot of cleaning to do, a lot of opening, a lot of battles before you can actually allow it to come through. Before it comes through. But what comes through is not an artificial thing, it's the reality. It's a real thing. This is the primary inyan of avodah in Chassidus. And this is why the Rebbe says, that part which we already learned, that the first approach to avodah is to eliminate coarse attributes, coarse natures, coarse attitudes. Since, as we just now finished pointing out, that ultimately the union of avodah is to reveal the neshama. The neshama is not only ruchni, it's godly. Godliness is even higher than ruchnis. Sometime over we'll have a chance to go into this a little bit more. In order to relate to godliness, relate to ruchnis even, as a reality, one has to, in a certain sense, be able to dissociate himself, to break away from the gashmius. All coarse and lowly midos come from one's gashmiistic, a worldly orientation. This is quite obvious, but just want to bring everything to conclusive, to a conclusion, to a clear conclusion. If one is jealous, everybody knows what jealousy is? What is the midah of jealousy? If I need shoes, because my shoes are torn, then it's nothing to do with jealousy. I need shoes. I'm aware of my need of shoes because I need them. But if I need shoes, not because I need shoes, because he has a nicer pair of shoes than I do, then that means that I am thinking of my own needs, not in terms of real needs, but in terms of comparing to someone else. That comparison is entirely a worldly orientation.
Entirely what?
A worldly orientation. What is the significance of it? If I have a path and I have a purpose in life, then I can think of my needs that are directly mine, nothing to do with him. When do I begin to think and compare myself to someone else? When I am not focused on my own purpose in life. I'm focused on how do I appear relative to the other guy, which is a completely insignificant aspect. It's entirely a chitzonistic thing. So if I view my life, if I can, so to speak, if I relate to myself from that chitzonistic perspective, how do I compare with the other guy? How can I then turn around and say, oh, what the neshama wants, that's the whole truth. It's the right opposite. I'm not even thinking of my neshama. I'm not even thinking in terms of my own purpose in life. I'm thinking of how do I appear relative to somebody else. So even though this is simplistic, the truth is that all midas rois, all negative midas, have basically this underlying principle. There's a story of the Rebbetzin Vivke. Rebbetzin Vivke was the Rebbe Maharash's Rebbetzin. Was a very great lady. Very great lady. So the story is that this was in the middle of the winter, and a lady from the town comes in, and in Russia, I don't know how it was here at that time, this is going back 150 years, but in any case, in Russia, fruit in the winter didn't exist. If you wanted to preserve fruit, it was preserved. It's called preserves. That's what you cook up fruits with sugar, and that preserves it. So this lady comes in to the Rebbetzin and says, "My child is not well. I'd like to give the child a little fruit for health. Can the Rebbetzin please give me a little bit, some preserves?" The Rebbetzin says, sure, she comes one time, gives her whatever variety that she had. And one wishes her all kinds of brachas that the child should be well, and so forth. And then the Rebbetzin sits and they sit around, there were guests in the house and so forth. And one of the guests left for some other reason and came back. And the lady came back and she said, you know, I passed by the house of that lady and I was interested to know how the child is. I come in and she has guests and they're sitting and drinking tea with the preserves. The preserves were not for the health of the child, but she wanted to entertain her guests. So the Rebbetzin Rivki says, Baruch Hashem, Abi, the child is well. I was worried about the child. Get the point?
The last line?
I was so concerned about the child. Baruch Hashem, the child is well. So this thing that she was kind of tricked and conned out and didn't faze her whatsoever. Abi means as long. I said Abi, that's an Irish word. As long as the child is well. Baruch Hashem. This is a person, we're talking about Rebbe Tzanifki and Tzitkonis, but this illustrates that if you are relating to the truth, if you're a truth orientation, these things don't faze you. You're just not touched by it. Because you live on a Neshama level, you're thinking in real terms. This is why the Rebbe explains here that before anything, if you want to be in touch with your Neshama, even if only to have a real insight and see what is the truth, how do I understand things, you first have to clean yourself from these coarse blemishes on the person. I always use this illustration. What is a human value? A simple human level. You go to the subway. Everybody knows what a subway is, right? More or less. I don't know if it's all there. So you're standing on the subway platform, and the train comes, and the doors open, and everybody is anxious to get a seat. So what do? You stand there right in front of the door. As the people come out, you push it. So it's like a contest. You push right in, you push it right in, because it's so important for you to get a seat. So I explain that this principle, that really you should stand aside and let the people come off first and then come in, then you enter. This is a principle which is not practical, because you just can't clash person against person. It's practical. And then it is simply self-respect. It's human. A person, a human being, cannot pursue some kind of a gashmistic thing and thereby completely abdicate. Abdicate means give up his human respect. Chase it like an animal. It's that's called seichel anushi. The human seichel says that this is not the right way to do it. You have to stand aside and then let people come off and then get in. So many times, as I'm talking and explaining, I use this to explain the concept of seichel, that this human seichel This is not a practical thing. Just the seichel says, I can't do it. It's not right. It's not human. And many people have a difficulty understanding that there is a seichel involved. I can understand it's practical, but what does seichel have to do with it? And if you have it, when I see that a person has a difficulty in understanding this, if you say, oh, I can't hold myself back, understanding this concept, that means that the person really needs to work on himself a lot and getting rid of coarse midas to be able to understand that the seichel should be able to function like a human being, not to be so involved in grabbing, in gaining some advantage over somebody else. Some real the human being should surface. This is what the Rebbe is saying over here. Before you start avodah, there has to be some kind of a cleansing that you recognize that you're a human being. Once you recognize you're a human being, then you start looking for your neshama. What does my human neshama say? What does my godly neshama say? So this is the part that we already learned. First part. Once this is accomplished, at least the Rebbe says, at least the most coarse blemishes, spots. So at least he has some control over himself, some sense of ruchnis. Then he can start doing in avodah. So he starts explaining this. In the manner of avodah, and also the order of avodah. It is not sufficient that the avodah should be in one single direction, in one single meter. I'll come back to explain the implication here. Utzrichim liyois kol hamidos. All the midas have to be attended to at the same time. The Yahava, the Yira, the Rachamim. Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes, essentially. Ava, Yira, and Rachamim. And the practical level, this is Av, this is Chesed, this is on the objective level, this is Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes. All the midas have to be attended. The simple reason for that, we're going to learn this as a whole discussion here. But the most obvious thing is that when a person goes into one midah or another, a person focuses on ahava, on chesed, or on gevura, then it's not real avodah. Then he's simply building upon his own inclination, his own nature, as a person who is inclined to chesed, a person inclined to gevura. And he thinks, oh, this is avodah. It's not avodah Hashem. Avodah means that you are recognizing Hashem in your mind and heart. It's nothing to do with Hashem. It has to do with his own nature. A nature of chesed and gvura, even if it is vested into mitzvahs, that you get angry if somebody does an avodah, and you're very strict and so forth, even if it is in mitzvahs, it's not avodas Hashem. It's not avodas Hashem. It's giving vent to your own feeling, to your own interests. And when you scream at somebody for making a mistake, and you don't take into account, is this screaming going to help him or it's going to destroy him, then you're not doing Avodas Hashem. It's just expressing your own nature. So this is what the Rebbe says. Avodah requires, one of the indicators that you're doing Avodas Hashem is that you're working on all fronts. Ahava, because there has to be Ahava and Yirah, and Racham, and defense. Uki Odua, for as it is known, the Ahava and Yirah him rotzu v'shuv. Ahava and Yirah, so to speak, in an objective level, viewing it from the side, there's two movements in the person's soul. One is called Rotzu. Rotzu means pursuing, running towards, and Shuv is coming back and returning back. And we'll discuss Rotzu v'Shuv in a little while to explain how this is Rotzu v'Shuv are primary states in a person's mind.
Primary?
Basic. V'yahavo hi rotzu. Perhaps I should give a little bit of a basis for this following discussion. Avodas Hashem has to combine two principles. One is that I want Hashem, and Hashem is higher than the world, is outside of the world. And the other is that Hashem wants me to be here. Hashem put my neshama in the group. He wants me to be here, and I have a purpose in being here. These are generally the two aspects that have to be combined in Avodah. The fact that Hashem wants me to be here and gave me Torah mitzvahs, what I should do. This we know, there is Torah mitzvahs, you have to do Torah mitzvahs. But that can be done in a way that I am personally not involved at all. I'm doing what I was told. I don't have a real sense of closeness to Hashem. I don't really experience it. I don't really understand it. I do what I was told. So there, he does the mitzvahs, but he doesn't really have a connection with Hashem. On the other hand, if one insists only on his connection to Hashem, and he forgets about the purpose for which Hashem brought him into this world, so he becomes involved primarily, basically, in his interest in understanding Elokus, but he forgets his mission, forgets his shlichus. And therefore, Avodas Hashem has to always incorporate these two qualities. The ahava hi rotz. Von ahava, in deep down in the soul of the spirit of ahava is rotz. Rotz means, rotz comes from the word running, like a person is chasing something. He's running towards something, away from where he is, and he's going someplace else. That's what rotz. Ukiyodua, and is known the sheirish ahava hu ova loshin rotz. The root of the word ahava is ova. Ova means to desire, rotz. V'hu b'shnei fan. This rotzin and this desire, and expressing itself in ahava, comes in two ways. Oif and ho'alev. The first way is sheretzoinoi utshukosoi hu, that his desire is lidoveg ba'oir einsoif, to connect to the infinite light, v'likolel boy, and to be incorporated and one with it. This is, again, this is after we have removed our coarse midas and we come to realize that what is the true inyan of a human being? It is his neshama experience. And that is the reality. In other words, as long as a person is preoccupied and concerned about his lunch, there's no way he's going to have ahava, and he wants to be likolel be'yinisif.
Cannot vote.
I mean, I know you're saying it cynically. It's these two things from both sides are viewed cynically. In other words, one is concerned about his lunch. He will say, "What are you talking about? I want lunch. Come on, let's be practical. Let's be real." The one who is involved in Oir Sof, he says, "What are you involved in? That's what you're thinking about. That's what your mind, your head, your cycle is preoccupied with. Where is your neshama? Where is your human being?" So they are literally in such diverse states that they don't even understand each other. If you talk to a regular guy, a business person or a professional, and say that there is such a thing in a person that he wants likolil vidovik be'yinisif, you say you're off your mind. Where you got that? I want to have an infinite amount of money. But likolil vidovik be'yinisif. Now, not to imply that after we learn this, we're all going to go away and we're going to have such a tremendous desire, likolil vidovik be'yinisif. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I'm thinking about lunch right now.
I'm sorry?
I'm thinking about lunch right now.
Well, then for sure, then you're not even here. What we want is that we should understand that such thing exists. Now we should understand what a human life is. And when you understand what human life is, what Avodas Hashem is, what Jewish life is, what the Jewish capacity is, what kind of a neshama you have. It is true that you have to go through a whole process and then some. But the neshama is there. Then you have the strength and the capability to follow through at your level with a focus and with strength that you can overcome your little obstacles. You can overcome your little obstacles. To remember that, hey, this is such child's play. This is not real. Why am I getting involved in this? Can you project, can you imagine a person who is, God forbid, blind? He's never seen. What would he be willing to sacrifice to have a moment of sight? To see the bright sun, just to see the world. What would he be willing to sacrifice? Is there any limit? No limit. That moment is to him his whole life. This is life. He's experiencing life. Oh, I see. It's real. Everything without sight, it's all imaginary. It's not real.
I mean, since we always say that a person is God forbid blind, he never saw before, that basically like the world is not real for him. He doesn't. It's not real. So like in such a case, why would he want to see them? Like if he doesn't, if the world to him isn't a real existence, what does he think he's going to gain by seeing it?
You see, the thing is that he is a living person. He has a neshama.
Shaman knows.
The neshama is real, but he can't experience that reality. He is in terrible pain even if you don't see it. Unless he becomes depressed, but he's in terrible pain. He can't experience reality. He'll be willing to give everything. Everybody can see this. A moment of recognition of reality, of the truth, is worth a lifetime. A moment to be able to understand that there is such a thing in a person, Abba, a Rotz, that he wants Likoler Vidovik Ba'ir Yisrael. That a person is cognizant of the Eir Yisrael. Is cognizant of Eir Yisrael. And to be connected and to experience that Eir Yisrael, he has a real desire for it. He's a Rotzer. He wants to run out of the limits of his group just to experience it. Once one realizes this, It is a greater desire than to open your eyes and see the bright sunshine. So even if we have it in a very limited sense, but it's extremely enlivening, extremely revealing and elevating for us just to understand that the existence of such things. You have to understand. Every person has a munah, has that nakuda in his soul, what's called a munah. A munah is that part in the person's soul that does not, that is beyond his comprehension. He doesn't really understand it. It's not based on experience. It's not based on, it was proven to him. This is something which is in his soul. This is a soul message. This is the reality, so to speak, that he perceives as real. This is why, even though in our experience, in the worldly experience, a person lives a finite number of years, right? And then so far, until Mashiach comes, we all live. All of us will survive it, but up until now, we have never seen, we don't have a person here who's older than 1,000 years. And yet, no one will say that a person's life is limited, it's finite. Hence, we don't understand what it means, but we all recognize that life is bigger than just the 70, 80, 90, 100 years that a person lives. It's a bigger phenomenon. It's an infinite phenomenon. This is called a moon. This is something which is beyond, it hasn't come to us because of our experience. This is something which is inherent in our mind, in our soul. This is the basic reality of the human being. This is what makes everything else real. This awareness, this recognition. So when one focuses in, as we're going to learn, with his seichel, and he actually contemplates with his seichel, focuses in on this realization of this infinity, then that becomes his whole focus. That's all he wants. Just like the blind person of Mon Islam, if he thinks of sight, he loses all interest. That's all I want. So in terms of avodah, this is called Abba. And it's called Rotzu because in effect he's actually jumping out of his limits, jumping out of his body. And he wants to relate to that truth that is beyond the bodily limits. The body confines him. This is one day, another day is so finite, and here this is infinity. And infinity is the reality. Okay. So this is what the Rebbe explains, that this Abba is called Rotzu. And the meaning of Rotzu is, it's not like a person, I love a candy. He's not running out of candy, he wants the candy in his mouth. This is running out of himself. Wants to step out of his own limits. V'hu b'shnei efani. Okay, so this rotzon is in two ways. First one is we already read. It's in Shukose Lidolik Be'erin Soiv V'likolel Bei, has a desire to connect to Erin Soiv and V'likolel Bei, and to be incorporated in the Erin Soiv. Ve'habeis, and the second aspect of this rotzon is Shenishtoikei, that he is longing, he is desiring, Sheyoyir Gilu Yalakuz Benafsho, that in his soul, in his experience, in his awareness, there should be Gilu Yalakus, that he should not be limited in his own experience, in his own orientation, and he should not be limited to be oriented on the worldly level, but he should sense the truth of Alakus. That life is real. He shouldn't feel the limits that the world imposes on him. Ukmei hatzoma lamayim, just as one who is thirsty for water, shechofetz u'mishtoikek me'oid lahamayim, he is longing for the water. K'moikein hu tzimoin ho'ahava. The similar is tzimoin ho'ahava, the thirst that is in ahava. Shechofetz u'mishtoikek legilu yalakus sheyoyer b'y. That he is longing that there should be gilu yalakus in him. Yoyer b'y, that should shine to him. So these are actually two different forms of this rotzah. One is that he can't stand being limited by the guf. He wants to go out and be connected to it himself. Another way is that he wants to be oriented to Elokus. He wants to see Elokus and live with it, experience it. This is not going out of himself. He wants Elokus to come to him. But in him, he doesn't want a worldly orientation, a finite and limited orientation. He wants an infinite orientation. In simple terms, he wants that to sense and to experience and live with a meaning in a meaningful life. Not just do things that you must because the world so demands, but it's meaningless. Yoel Elokus b'nafsh.
He's still like this or both of them together?
No, these are two different times.
Sometimes like this, sometimes like this.
Sometimes on this one. It's different approaches, and it's due to different contemplations, different experiences. It's like when a person, this thirst for money, for water, mayim. It's like a person who, this is something which we can all relate to, generally speaking. When you feel completely dry in your life. I don't feel any chayes, any excitement, any sense of value in what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. That's like a dry life. This is a life without more, without a lakus, without a sense of movement. And there too, how much will a person give to have a little bit life? Everything. So this is basically Av. This is only the beginning of this discussion, so we're going to revisit this in Abba, therefore, is the Rotzu. V'yira hi shuv. Yira is the shuv part of the Avodah. What is shuv? Shuv means the opposite of Rotzu. Rotzu means run out of yourself. Shuv means return back, settle back. Why would one be shuv? Why would one return back to where he is? So he explains. Shehu habitul v'kibutz asmus. This shuv actually represents his personal bitul and his personal contraction. Kibbutz means contraction. He limits himself. Where he senses and he becomes personally bottled, a sense of bitul, a sense of smallness, from oil and soif. And thus he does not have a desire. He doesn't have a desire to follow on the path, to follow on the path, in great and wondrous paths, to rise up and to face up to Elokus. The only thing he dares to do, that he can relate to personally, is just to accept the Oil Machoshamai, the rule of heaven, the Kiyam Atero mitzvahs, through that expresses itself in the fulfilling of Tero mitzvahs, Besur Meira V'asei Toiv, in the path of Sur Meira V'asei Toiv. Stay away from evil and do good. Now it's negative and positive mitzvahs. So this is called Yira. Where he realizes, he recognizes that he is climbing up to a mountain, he's climbing up to a place that is awesome. This is Ein Sof. And he recoils. He recoils, he gets scared. He recoils, comes back to himself. How do I dare approach this? It's enough for me to know that what I do here is something that this Oir Ein Sof told me to do. For me to experience Oir Ein Sof, that's beyond. That's a chutzpah. It's enough that I have a message, that I have a mission. That's more than sufficient for me. So let us now examine this briefly, what we learned so far. He wants to be connected and incorporated, be part of Oirei Seif. Now, Oirei Seif is not something that we can possibly have a handle on. We don't understand. There's no way we can understand what Oirei Seif is. It's Ein Seif. Ein Seif means it doesn't have a handle. There's no way for us to grasp it and grab onto it. If you don't have a handle on it, so what do you want? You don't know what you want. The answer is, that's correct. It's not, I can't describe what I want. I only know one thing. That this Metzius over here, this life, is not real. The real thing is the Oirei Seif. That's the reality. That's my life here in this world, the physical world, and anything that I understand. This is all artificial relative to Elokus. I do this, so it looks like this. I do this, it looks like this. I want the real thing. Ein Seif, that's the real thing. He wants to have a sense of Ein Seif. So even though this is, in a certain sense, folly, well, it's, how do you come to Ein Seif? There's no way. You don't even know what it is. Nevertheless, there has to be, or there is, such a desire in the person. There is such a desire in the person, even though there is no way he can really grasp it. Why is there such a desire in the person? Because he recognizes in his mind, and as a result of that, he feels in his heart that that is the only truth there is. And he doesn't want to compromise. He wants to have a sense of truth. In other words, understand this. This type of Rotzer V'Shuv, this is not a politically correct approach. This is not a practical approach where he says, let's see where I can be more successful. This doesn't do with success. It has to do what his neshama wants, what his truth is. When one contemplates this rotzu, his desire to leisachel, leidovik, leikol be'ir Soif, there is nothing to show for it. You can't show what did you accomplish. Nothing. But what did he accomplish? He accomplished recognition that the only truth there is Ein Soif. And he recognized Ein Soif to be such a truth that he really wants to go there, even though he doesn't know and understand it. That's a great accomplishment. That's an accomplishment of real life, even though it's not something that you can show for it. one of the big challenges in life in our world is not just the question, what is the truth? The real question, the primary question that we have to answer for ourselves, that we have to come to grips with, is not what is the truth. The real question is to truly believe that there is a truth. Not to give in to the temptation of living with the moment. Who cares what the truth is? I don't know what the truth is. I just want to enjoy my ice cream. Or my, whatever it is. My moment, my experience. This is what people are challenged with. Forget about anything. This is enjoyable. It's fine. Leave me alone. That's what most people conclude. Never. Let's be practical. What's practical means? Let's sink into the world. And forget about everything else. Accept the world as reality. Find the world is not real. That's the best reality I have. Let's enjoy it while we can. This is the first challenge that every person has to get over it. And knows that's not, I'm not accepting that. There is a truth. And that's what I want to be associated with. And I don't want to live a lie. I don't want to say that I enjoy life because I've deadened, you know what deadened means? Killed my sense of truth. I've given up on it. That's not enjoying life. This is essentially the result. What results in this mishtoikek legili eresef, lidovek v'likol be'eresef. When one has this approach from a truth perspective, then the next step would be, yes, I want to be connected to Him. So I truly want to be connected to Him. But how can I really be connected to Him? No way. I'll be satisfied to do Torah mitzvahs. How is Torah mitzvahs connecting to Torah and Sefer? Now that I have realized that the only truth there is Torah and Sefer, so therefore, every good thing that I do is connected to Ein Sof. It's not just part of the world. This is what the Rebbeinu wants. That's the only truth there is. Even though I don't see it and I don't experience it, that's the real thing. The Rebbeinu in the Torah mitzvahs gave me the real way to connect to Him. When he goes through both of these gyrations, both of these variations, then his mitzvahs are living mitzvahs. Then Kabbalah Soil is not a cop-out. You know what cop-out means? A way to hide away from the truth. Just I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, leave me alone. Then the Kabbalah says there's a real experience. And he knows what he's doing. It's true he's just doing because he was told, but it's not just, there are two ways to do what I'm told. One is, I don't care who told me, I don't want to know anything about it, I must do this, okay. If I do this, are you going to give me lunch? Okay, fine. The other Kabbalah says, who told me? I know who told me, and I relate to one who told me to do it. But I can't really unknow him. But I'm glad to do what one who told me to do. That's a real Kabbalah. That happens when one goes through this whole process. So as I mentioned before, as we're going to go on, it's a little difficult, but even to orient yourself and to understand the truth of this is already a real experience. Is already a glimpse of sunshine. And it's worth every effort. Have a sense what a Yid is, what a Neshama is. How is the Rebbe to relate to us? How do we relate to Rebbe? Okay? We continue the mitzvah.
Instead of someone can't see, you know, anything like that's life for him. So we also in the past there's someone we never saw, even outside the mitzvahs, never right?
He cannot have a Yetzer Hara while he did not see.
So then someone saying that he basically not alive with person, right? He is. So why would then he has a neshama? If he is Abba alive, he never saw, if he did anything besides that, that's life for him. And why sight so much that, I know we talked about it a lot already, the guy with the sight.
I'm sorry?
So I know we talked already a lot about the inner sight.
Yeah.
Trying to kind of put it together now. So a person really would give everything, he would give his life just to see. But he is alive, like why?
Let's take that away a little bit, and let's talk about a person confined to a prison cell. He'd give everything to be able to go out free. We discussed it a long, long time ago. I don't know if this was before. Do you remember that? Why is he so anxious to get out? So some people said, I asked this question many, many times on different occasions. Some people said, oh, he wants to be able to go wherever he wants. So I asked him, okay, when he goes free, what does he do? What is the first thing he does? He starts running up and down the streets. What does he do? Maybe. But he certainly doesn't start running, oh, now I can go wherever I want. Big deal. And particularly when we talk about, civilized societies in America, the prisoners play golf the whole day or tennis. What is he? He's living. He's not living. He's experiencing all the good things of life except life itself. Life means that he can relate to the infinity. He is not bounded within a confined area. to be bounded within a confined area, you can give him everything. He'd rather struggle and sweat for his lunch. Why? Because that's what the soul is. It's infinite. He wants to be able to relate to infinity. So he's alive, but he's not really alive. Doesn't really explain. This is the same thing. Sight is even more necessity. Yes, he's alive, and that's why he feels there's something real, but he can't experience.
Why is the sight that reveals the aspect of infinity or takes it away?
Sorry?
Why is it that sight reveal or take away that aspect of infinity of life?
That we discussed also many times, but it's a little bit of a lengthy, longer discussion. But in principle, generally speaking, it's only in sight where the object that you see is true unto itself, not how it affects you, which means you have an absolute reality.
Right.
In every other sense, you know things by personal experience. That's not real.
Right. And I remember all those conversations about it as making the true realities of things. I don't see the connection of that and infinite.
Infinite. What is the meaning of infinity? Infinite means that it is true in and of itself. Like I said before, is there a truth? It's true in and of itself, not because of some circumstance. Every other experience is circumstantial truth. I feel it, I touch it. This is just truth in itself. Getting it a little bit?
We need to work on it.
Okay. No sympathy. If you have to work.